A cordial greeting. Today is Friday, August 18, 2023. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia speaking. In this video, we will be updating the forecast related to 3 disturbances that we are closely monitoring in the tropical Atlantic region. This video is of special interest to the residents of the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic, because a significant rain event is expected that could lead to severe flooding throughout this region and windy conditions over the next few days and the beginning of next week. In the tropical Atlantic, we currently have Invest 98. Additionally, Invest 99 and a low-pressure system. All 3 disturbances have probabilities of cyclonic development, although the first one represents the greatest threat to the Eastern Caribbean region. Briefly discussing Invest 98, we can see that it has a fairly broad circulation and appears somewhat more organized compared to yesterday. That's why the National Hurricane Center has increased the probabilities of development to 70% over the next 7 days as it moves northwestward. Fortunately, it will remain over open Atlantic waters. In fact, if it forms into a tropical cyclone, the expectation is that it will be short-lived due to unfavorable conditions as it moves into mid-latitudes. On the other hand, we have Invest 99 here, generating strong thunderstorms and showing some organization. This is why the National Hurricane Center, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maintained a 40% probability of development as it moves northwestward over the Atlantic. It's important to mention that this disturbance will likely not reach the Caribbean region, but notice that it will be passing quite close. The most important thing related to Invest 99 is that it might interact with the other low-pressure system we are monitoring, which brings significant uncertainty to this forecast. At the moment, there are 2 possible scenarios with this low-pressure system. The first is that it takes a trajectory towards the northwest, passing close to or over the Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico. For this scenario to occur, it needs some interaction with Invest 99. As I mentioned earlier today, that's what the GFS model shows. However, during the afternoon, we've seen that this low-pressure system has started to separate from Invest 99. This might indicate that the European model's scenario, with a trajectory more to the south and over the Dominican Republic, seems to be the more likely scenario. Regardless of whether it takes a path closer to Puerto Rico or closer to the Dominican Republic, the Lesser Antilles will experience heavy rainfall during this weekend and the beginning of next week. Please be prepared for a significant rain event. Later on, I'll show you the forecasted rainfall accumulations. Now let's focus on this low-pressure system. We'll explore different scenarios and possible effects it will have on the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. Let's start by showing that the National Hurricane Center maintains a 30% probability of cyclonic development as it moves through the Eastern Caribbean region. Before we look at the forecast from various models, I must mention that a trough system is expected to develop northeast of the Caribbean during this weekend. This will have a significant influence on the low-pressure system entering the Caribbean region. First, this trough system is imparting strong wind shear from the west over parts of the northeastern Caribbean, which should keep this low-pressure system rather weak. This trough will also cause the low-pressure system to turn more north and northeast over the next few days, potentially crossing the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, or the Dominican Republic. What's most important is that this trough will also create conditions of atmospheric instability across the northeastern Caribbean, promoting the event of intense and significant rainfall with a high risk of causing flooding in some areas of the northeast and east Caribbean. Rain is truly our main concern, and I'll show you the projected rainfall totals later on, depending on the scenario this low-pressure system takes. Let's start by looking at the forecast from the GFS model. Compared to yesterday morning, you can see that it now predicts that the first low-pressure system should be arriving near Barbados and the Lesser Antilles during Saturday morning hours. And even though it still doesn't develop this into a tropical cyclone by tomorrow, it's important to note that the GFS model's solution is similar to what the European model showed, with a slightly faster westward movement. This would decrease the interaction it might have with Invest 99. So, under this new scenario from the latest afternoon run, you can see that the GFS model now has a low-pressure system moving north of Venezuela but with a westward trajectory compared to earlier today. Still, by early Monday morning, the GFS model continues to forecast some kind of interaction with Invest 99 as it moves through this area. The influence of the trough towards the northeast of the Caribbean will cause it to turn northward, apparently crossing the Mona Passage or Puerto Rico. The good news is that in this run, it doesn't show much development. It doesn't even develop it into a tropical cyclone before it passes through the northeastern Caribbean. However, don't let your guard down, as heavy rains are expected regardless of whether it becomes a tropical depression or not. Now let's look at the European model's perspective. At least until Saturday, it's very similar to the GFS model's forecast. It has a low-pressure system not developing into a tropical depression when it reaches the Lesser Antilles, but it then maintains a trajectory a bit more westward compared to the GFS model. This is due to the European model having a greater separation between this low-pressure system and Invest 99, resulting in a slightly reduced interaction between the two systems. Here we see in the late afternoon on Sunday, passing several hundred miles south of Puerto Rico, and then gaining some organization as it approaches the Dominican Republic and Haiti. In the forecast from today's afternoon run, it possibly has a tropical depression crossing over the Dominican Republic and Haiti on Wednesday morning. After that, it would be pulled by the trough in the northeastern Caribbean, moving north and then northeast over the Atlantic waters. So, we can see that both major models generally agree that the northeast Caribbean region could experience significant rainfall. The GFS model continues to forecast a trajectory somewhat closer to Puerto Rico, while the European model leans toward a trajectory closer to the Dominican Republic. This will definitely have an impact on where the highest rainfall accumulations are expected. This is why we need to stay alert, especially in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, as we're still not certain how much rain this disturbance might bring. It will depend on whether it follows the GFS model's trajectory or the European models. In my personal opinion, judging by what I'm seeing in satellite images, it seems that this low-pressure system has started to separate quite a bit from Invest 99. The most probable scenario is probably the one shown by the European model, passing near or over the Dominican Republic. Regardless of these two scenarios, if you live in the Lesser Antilles, be prepared for quite a bit of rain. Get ready for a significant flooding event over the next few days. Other models, such as the German model, have a forecast very similar to the European model, passing over the Dominican Republic and Haiti by Tuesday afternoon. Similarly, the Canadian model also has a tropical depression possibly crossing over the Dominican Republic during Tuesday night. Now, let's examine the different scenarios in the ensemble members of the European model, which all agree on a westward movement for at least the next 48 hours. The center of circulation is predicted to pass between Dominica and Trinidad and Tobago, but there's divergence in the different solutions afterward. Some of them show a trajectory slightly closer to the eastern part of the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, while others show a trajectory over the central part of the Dominican Republic. We still don't know exactly where this center of circulation might cross. Also, note that some members of the European model predict a tropical storm when it moves through this area. I urge you to stay attentive to any unexpected changes that might arise in this forecast. The GFS model also shows similar but slightly different scenarios from the European model. It ranges from a more northerly trajectory crossing over the Virgin Islands to other scenarios further west, similar to the European model, and crossing over parts of the eastern Dominican Republic. We'll need to wait patiently to see what happens once it reaches the Caribbean. I understand that by tomorrow afternoon, we'll have a much clearer picture of which islands might experience the worst effects of this possible cyclone. However, remember that the trough should prevent it from strengthening significantly, so wind, for now, is not a major concern. The main concern is the rain it might bring. Let's take a look at the Doppler radar projection according to the GFS model. By Saturday afternoon, rain should begin in some islands like Barbados. Then, during Saturday night, rain is expected over much of the central and southern Lesser Antilles, as well as Trinidad and Tobago. As you can see in this projection, its trajectory continues, and a significant rain event is expected throughout Sunday and Monday, leading to substantial rainfall accumulations across this region. This is the GFS model's projection, which shows the heaviest rain near or over Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Remember that if the European model's forecast is correct, this rain might shift further westward and affect much of the Dominican Republic. For instance, if the trajectory shown by the GFS model materializes, estimates suggest between 2 to 5 inches of widespread rainfall from Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles, with some higher accumulations possibly reaching 8 to 12 inches of rain. These maximum amounts, which we still don't know exactly where they will fall, could lead to serious flooding issues. This is why we are closely monitoring the evolution of this low-pressure system. Under the scenario of the European model, the maximum rainfall accumulations could also fall over the Dominican Republic, with estimates ranging from 300 to 370 millimeters, especially from Sunday to Tuesday. Lastly, in terms of winds, you can see that windy conditions are forecasted over the central and northern Lesser Antilles and Puerto Rico, with some winds between 30 to 40 miles per hour, especially on Monday and Tuesday. If there's a trend toward a more westerly trajectory over the Dominican Republic, then tropical storm winds could affect the country with gusts between 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. Well, that's all the information I have for tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'll provide an update on this forecast. Stay tuned to the National Hurricane Center bulletins and hurricane info on YouTube, so you don't miss any updates. To stay informed, please subscribe to this channel by clicking the red button below this video on YouTube. Click subscribe and then hit the notification bell to receive alerts when new videos are uploaded. I hope all my followers in the Eastern Caribbean region are paying close attention to this forecast. Please share this video to reach more people. I'll see you tomorrow morning with an updated video on this forecast. Have a great night.